This is the Entertainment Roundup for Wednesday, the 24th of July. I'm J77, and I'm just going to go right straight to the topics of hand. I'm going to talk about two stories, which is actually one big story, but the one story that caught my attention was Stevie Wonder, and the other story is a follow-up, which I was participating on. I was waiting on this story for a while because I pretty much knew that when one does something, others will pretty much eventually follow, as well as the criticism behind that. As you know, Stevie Wonder have announced last week that he was boycotting Florida over the Stand Your Ground law, as well as the outcome of the George Zimmerman verdict. This was a very big deal. Stevie Wonder, who I respect big time as a musician, spoken out about what he felt was injustice, as well as the law itself. Originally, I was going to talk about this article last week, but I decided, as usual, to hold back to see what kind of an impact in terms of the entertainment world will follow suit. And sure enough, as I speak right now, an article was posted 7 hours ago, stated that not only that Stevie Wonder is going to be boycotting Florida, but Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z, Madonna, Kanye West, Stevie Wonder, those celebrity powers, all musicians are following the lead. That also about boycotting Florida. Now, the article says that Madonna, Usher, Patti LaBelle, Kanye West, Jay-Z, the Rolling Stones, Justin Timberlake, R. Kelly, Rihanna, Alicia Keys, I Am, an artist I've never heard before, Bruce and Rod Stewart, are among the 20 musicianal artists to be joining Stevie Wonder's boycott of the state of Florida. The article also goes on to say that the artist supporting the April Ryan reports the list of artists supporting the change to the Stand Your Ground law in the wake of the George Zimmerman verdict. Ryan cited individuals close to the Wonder camp. Some of the artists listed have already canceled concerts in the Sunshine State in recent events. Stevie Wonder won't perform in Florida until Stand Your Ground is abolished, and he said in his quote, "I decided that until Stand Your Ground law is abolished in Florida, I will never perform there again." Wonder announced at a concert earlier this month, "As a matter of fact, wherever I find the law exists, I will not perform in that state or in that part of the world." Roughly 30 states out of the 50 states here has some version of the controversial law. This link I will leave to so that by both of you guys can read it yourself, as well as the original article which was announced last week. I will leave both of these links below because they're pretty much side by side of what's going on. Here's my thing with this, okay? And before I go in, I'm going to leave my feelings, which I already pretty much announced about the George Zimmerman verdict, to the more political, more serious channel that I have. I'm just going to stick with this topic alone. I respect the artists for what they're doing. I respect Stevie Wonder, especially from a person who grew up in discrimination at a time where blacks was only allowed to use one bathroom while whites used another one. There was segregation at the time he was growing up. I respect him. I respect his gesture, as well as anyone who is going to be soon taking part of this gesture. But I also have to say, in terms of what they're doing, is that no matter what stand they have against what Florida has done or the injustice that they feel that Florida has done, the only people who has a true voice in terms of changing that law, that Stand Your Ground law, which should be changed or should be abolished completely, depending on how poorly written that law is. Because let's be honest, it's more of how the law is written than anything else. Because, like I said, Texas, who is pro-guns, have this law in place, but it has a written statement that you just can't just go around looking for trouble. I reported this in the Serious channel, and for the most part, I can actually respect that law, especially after reading it, what they actually said, what you can and cannot do. One of the things they said is you cannot instigate a fight, you cannot go out looking for trouble, and one just cannot feel that their life has been threatened, that it seems just that they feel justified to shooting someone, even though all the person did was just look at them. So, for the most part, not all states have a broader, more looser law on the books. Florida does, and the fact that you have a governor, who is not willing to at least re-examine the law, basically read the law, what it actually says a lot about him and who he truly represents. With that being said, I still feel that Florida, the citizens of Florida, has to make that stand. They have to say enough already, and until they actually do two things, demand them to actually at least look at the law, repeal the law, or basically put a new law that will actually prevent senseless vigilantism to happen in that state. I think that all it is just basically gesture and attention seeking from some of these celebrities. I know so many people will basically thumb me down for saying that. I know so many people will say I don't know what I'm talking about, but when I see a lot of celebrities gather around like this, they do this, and then after a while, you don't hear from them again. And that's the thing I'm kind of more worried about when it comes to this kind of situation, because this is a very hot button situation. A lot of reports have been coming back and forth from a lot of news. A lot of people is voicing their own opinion. Some that anger me, some that actually make sense. Even people who makes videos on YouTube for a living have voiced their own opinion. So I can understand where all this stuff is coming from, but at the same time, when I see celebrities doing this, I also ask myself, where were they when this thing went down? Where were they when the topic for these kind of laws was coming down and what they feel should be done? Why is it always after the fact? And whether or not their boycott is going to have any effect in Florida or any state who does this at all. And my initial feeling is not really. Again, it's a good statement. These are very popular people who has a great fan base, and you better believe they are paying attention to what they're doing in terms of the Stand Your Ground law, as well as any laws that affects not only them but everyone from a state-to-state level. However, I got to be mindful as these are also celebrities, and not all of them have our intention in mind. Some of them may have their own agenda in mind. Like I said, when they had that protest, it was announced that Beyonce and Jay-Z was there. I wasn't saying, "Oh, great, that's wonderful." They're there in support of Trayvon's family. I wasn't thinking of that. I was actually wondering, are they really there to support them, or are they really there to put more attention to themselves for the wrong reason? You know what I'm getting at with that. A lot of celebrities are attention seekers, and if any time something like this comes down, they can't wait to put their mug over there just to say, look, we're doing something, we're in support of this, and then after a while, disappear, gone. With that being said, do I think Stevie Wonder is looking for attention? No, I think he's really upset. I think he's really offended by what has happened, and him boycotting Florida is pretty much his way of saying, I'm sick of what they're doing, I'm sick of what these laws are being passed that's really against my people, and I'm not going to go any state that support this. With that being said, do I think every state have a similar standing ground law is one-sided? No, I don't. I do believe there are some states out there who have legitimate, well-written laws that specifies what standing your ground should be based upon, not just thrown out there. Keep in mind, one of the major things that the police have said, which I still don't think is an excuse at all, is saying that, well, we didn't know how the word was worded. Our hands were tied. We had no choice but to release them. What do you mean you had no choice but to release them? Do you guys don't do investigation anymore? And the fact that you had cases in Florida where standing your ground law should apply, but instead it didn't, really raises a lot of question of what that law applies to when it comes to even race. And that's the thing that I think that when you hear people say it's a race issue, it's more on the fact that the people who passed the law in Florida, as well as the police who implemented that law, and how they enforce it on certain individuals. This is where the issue comes in. And I still believe that even though this is, again, these musicians are doing a noble thing by boycotting it, boycotting Florida, it's still going to be up to the voters in Florida to say, that's it, we're done with this. Change this law, or you're going out of office. Personally, I think the governor, along with the rest of the people who passed that law, should be gone entirely. They have proven to me, even with reports I have done a few weeks back about them banning all computers in the state of Florida, which was absolutely ridiculous, and even so, basically driving people out of work because now internet cafes is deemed illegal in Florida, all because of what one of their own has done. As in terms of corruption concerned, that alone tells me that they can care less about the people, all about the jobs that they basically destroyed. So to me, that alone, that's enough for me to say, yeah, these guys got to go. But I don't live in Florida. I can't make that decision. The people in Florida has to make that decision. The Sunshine State has to make the decision, and they will tell me something come November when they have to, when election comes, just how angry or just how frustrating they feel. Also, and this is also something very important, we gotta stop dividing each other when it comes to this situation, and not just race, just people's political views. And one of the main reasons why I don't talk Rush Limbaugh, despite the fact I think he's a racist prick, is the simple fact is that every time when it comes to liberals, it's not just liberals, it's those people. Those people, or don't listen to those people. They never change. And I'm like, those people, come on now. We tend to divide ourselves too much on things that we shouldn't be divided upon, and that's the thing that I think that that the politicians eat up. There's no coincidence that they spew hateful things at their candidates as well as the people who they're supposed to represent. They're just good at hiding it down and playing it to the point where it's considered rhetoric. But this is the thing that I think that we need to be more mindful of as well. But as far as the musicians is, hey, look, again, great gesture. I'm hoping everything works out. To me personally, I think it's not all of them are having that great intention in mind, because I guarantee you, if there's $1 billion to be made, or from any part of the state that have standing ground, they will take it. That's just the bottom line. But it is a good gesture. But in the end, in terms of Florida concern, Florida, the voters of Florida, have to have the last word. And until then, until November comes, I want to see what Florida does in terms of, fighting these laws that came out, voting, vote in terms of voting, whether they keep their governor or not. When I start seeing changes like that, then I know then I know the citizens of Florida is fed up of what was going on in their state. But until then, the governor already said it. He's not changing to stand your ground. He also believed that banning computer cafes was the right thing to do for his state. Until that guy is gone, this is how it is for the time being. Hopefully that will not be the case come 2014. That's all I got to say about that. But I'll leave a link. You guys can decide for yourself. Leave a comment below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. But it is something that is very interesting as how these musicians are coming out of woodwork and doing this. I just don't think it's going to last too long. I really don't. You decide on that matter. All right, on to Steven Spielberg and company. This is actually an interesting article. I will also leave a link to this one. It's an article that kind of pretty much describes the state of the movie business, especially of late. But I'm just going to say this now. This is not new. We've seen ups and downs like this. But this is now a new kind of up and down. And it has something to do with the bombing of a lot of these films, or the disappointing numbers that some of these films have been getting lately. And to the point where, according to an article that I got right here, and I will leave a link to you guys below, this article was done by Leo Sun. It is a movie article discussing some of the things that about what Steven Spielberg have said. And needless to say, I can agree with what he was saying in some categories, but I also to say that mostly with George Lucas, as he also said more than anything else, they're just as responsible for what has been going on with my movie theaters of late, especially with 3D and IMAX. And the fact is that they seem to have cheapened the experience down with just overly use of CGI. And many people are starting to feel that that kind of practice has actually come back to haunt the movie industry. It says here, and I'll read it here. When Steven Spielberg and George Lucas talk about movies, the entire world listened. After all, these two directors defined the movie industry for more than 3 decades, giving us timeless classics like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, E.T., Jurassic Park. Yet Steven Spielberg now believes that the entire industry is heading towards a major meltdown, and that the current streak of bigger, louder, and more expensive Hollywood blockbusters is about to implode. This article is actually pretty well done, and it goes into detail saying that Steven Spielberg criticized criticisms backed by his friend George Lucas, which I'm gonna be very straight up. George Lucas have really nothing much to say in terms of criticism because he's just as guilty as this as anybody else. But I'll get to that in a minute. He's backed by his friend George Lucas, saying it's nothing new to film critics who have long claimed that like director like Michael Bay have disposed of in the invasion, pretty much lazy story writing in favor of a green screen special. He basically diluted the actual storytelling. However, right after Spielberg widely critical comments, his predictions started to come true. For every expensive film, Lone Ranger, Pacific Rim, After Earth, White House Down, all recently came up disappointingly short in their film budget. The rest of the summer looks bleak as well, as phenomenal action film Rest in Peace is forecast to be a bomb. Oh yeah. And it's and it continues going on here. What happened? Did the audience suddenly lose interest in explosions, large screen spectacles that have long defined some of blockbusters, or have the injury reached a situation point predicted by Steven Spielberg and Lucas that there are these studios heading for a terrible fall that will force them to rethink the movie marketing strategy? Alright, before I go on, because there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on here that I wanted to stop for a minute, because this is something very important here. I said this before in a recent article. I said this before when it came down to my movie theaters across New York City. Not many people go to movies anymore, and it's not because the film is bad as well, because the film is it doesn't, trailers make it look bad, or the film to them they'll have their favorite star, and they don't go to the movies anymore because it's too goddamn expensive. Let's just keep it real here. Alright, I said it before. I have to make a choice, a very calculated choice in terms of what I'm willing to spend in the movie theaters and how far I'm willing to go to find the cheapest movie theater possible. I saw the Man in Steel in 3D, and it only cost me $8. I was very happy with $8, and this was a mom and pop movie theater. This movie theater didn't have the flashy lights. It was a pretty much almost a sizable living room type movie theater, and yet the experience was just as fun, just as entertaining. I didn't spend over $25 to watch this movie. That same day, if I would have spent it in Manhattan, it would cost me $18. That's just one ticket. $18 for that same movie in a different theater in Manhattan, watching it in 3D. If I didn't want to watch it in 3D, it would have cost me $15 to see that movie. I had to travel to Queens just to see The Man of Steel. I don't regret making that decision because it saved me a whole lot of money, and I still had change left over when I left the theater. That's how satisfying I was going to that theater, and I recommend going to that theater for those who wants to save money. There are other theaters like that as well. There's very few mom and pop theaters. There's only 3% left in New York alone. New York City alone, there's only 3% of mom and pop movie theaters left alone. You have almost everyone entirely corporate based. And but the theaters that are still here, they are reasonable. They have special deals, and they are heavily supported by the community because it is something that can actually be light on the pocket. Notice how I didn't say anything else about the movie theater industry in terms of that, because when I see 3D, which I wish it die already, the movie industry is forcing things that I don't think is necessary. I don't care about 3D. I just don't. It doesn't make the experience any better. When I watched The Man of Steel, I didn't even notice the 3D was there. I had on 3D glasses the entire time, didn't realize it was there. For me, I was best off just seeing it in the regular 2D. But like I said, I didn't spend double-digit cash to see that film. It has gotten too expensive, and to be honest with you, it takes the fun out of seeing a movie, especially with children's films. Children's films, if you have a family of 6, can come up to $100 in ticket sales. I didn't even say anything about the popcorn. I didn't say anything about the soda. And I mentioned this before. You got, and the thing is, that's one of the major problems. It's not even the gist of the problem, but it's one of the major problems. The movie theater experience, people really don't want to have that kind of burden. They just said, I'll wait to get on DVD and to pop it on at my home, and I save myself a whole truckload of money. Because to them, they didn't have to spend all that money, which pretty much they're not going to get back. And they're not going to get back for an hour, maybe 2 hours of watching something on a big screen. In reality is they just spend $100 for that experience. It's almost just as much money, sometimes more money, than a Broadway show. And that's saying a lot. So that's one of the things that's been hurting the movie industry. Especially when this catching on 3D. Nobody cares about 3D. And they're constantly forcing it. The IMAX experience. Yeah, there are some good movies that are made in IMAX. There's some film that does a great job with it. One of the best films I saw in IMAX was The Dark Knight. It did a wonderful job on it. But is it necessary? Not really. Not really. And that's one of the main things I wanted to bring up, because it says here the IMAX avatar effect, which pretty much everybody wants to blame Cameron for this. And I think it's a little bit unfair, because to me, yeah, Cameron made a film in 3D and in IMAX, but you know what? The studio decided, let's milk this for everything we have and make almost every film that a summer blockbuster a 3D experience, which to me doesn't need to be that way. It really don't. Canadian projector maker IMAX has had a profound effect on movie making over the past decade. Once restricted to projecting shorting educational documents, IMAX came out from its shell in the early 2000s when a filmmaker proceeded on modifying, accommodating longer running time. This allowed the company to start showing mainstream Hollywood films as well. And then it talks about James Cameron. It says, meanwhile, James Cameron Avatar, released by 20th Century Fox, now part of 21st Century Fox, opened a floodgate for 3D films shown on IMAX screens. In the 4 years since Avatar release, the makers have been structured with 3Ds. The market has been structured with 3D IMAX films, while some films like Ang Lee's Life of Pi was able to fully utilize the medium to exchange its story. The market became crowded with critically panned 3D IMAX, crash-in films like Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunter. There you go. And again, it also brings the question, I'll read all the article as it goes in, is it really necessary? And most of the time, when they put these movies in 3D, is to try and boost up their chances to make the money that they actually pour into this movie. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it don't. And when it don't, oh my God. But most importantly, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't say, maybe we'll say it down the list, some of these 3D films they're not really made in 3D. They were just converted. This makes no sense whatsoever. The article says here, theme park ride movies will displace traditional movies. Okay, it says here, in addition to 3D IMAX films, theaters are adding motion sets from D-Box technology. Although this idea was um, fully minimized, the motion picture is a good for movies that are rarely heavy on the special effects. It has made viewing on action films in theaters a thing of the past. It says here, to Steven Spielberg, that is a major problem that undermines the foundation of the film industry. He stated that the critical acclaimed biography Lincoln was nearly released in HBO instead of theaters due to the relaunch of the studio to give the film a wide release. Lucas also stated that he expected a film like Lincoln to end up in a small screen rather than the theaters in the future. Steven Spielberg also believes that the obsession with 3D IMAX and D-Box style entertainment could cause an advantage U.S. ticket prices to raise to $25 in 3 years. That is insane. Think about that for a minute. Think about what that last paragraph have said here. Really think about it. Can you imagine going to the box office and watching Batman and Superman, which by the way has been announced a couple of days ago, and the usher or the ticket agent from your nearby theater told you that you have to pay $25 to see a 2-hour movie? Can you imagine that price tag? That's for one person. Could you imagine if you had 4 people with you? $25. We're almost there, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like I said, most of these major corporations who want to, well, they like to claim, maximize the movie experience, it's already pushing $15, $18 a ticket. Now imagine you paying $25. You may laugh at what I'm saying, but this is actually coming to fruition, guys. And that's scary. A lot of people will have questioned me when I say, well, we're living in the last days of the movie theaters. And you know what? I truly believe we are. Because there is no way I can see too many people actually going week after week in the theater and paying $25 each time. Most people don't even go to the theaters no more than, 2, 3 times a year now. Can you imagine what this would do to the average moviegoer? Let's continue on with the article. It says here, desperate need of a franchise. Marvel and Walt Disney companies set the bar high for the rest of the industry with the Avengers last year. Ever since the release of Iron Man in 2008, Marvel Cinematic Universe was placed together with lovingly and carefully that the fans eagerly anticipate every new film of the series. Sweden, a man known for his passion for comic books and sci-fi, was brought to tie it all together with the Avengers. And the result was a critical masterpiece with a score of 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and also became the highest grossing film in 2012 at $623 million. The article continues. Despite achieving high success with the Avengers and Iron Man 3, Disney failed to learn critical lessons from the past failures last year. Disney released John Carter, based on a 1912 novel by Tarzan writer Edgar Rice. The film cost $250 million to produce, but only grossed $280 million worldwide. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, it made its money. You gotta understand that the U.S. gross is way different than the international gross. When the film costs that much there, they have to make that much back in that international, just as well as in our water. So this film was a huge failure. And what happened, and this is something that is more on the people who was in charge of this movie, a film that a lot of people were not happy to see, didn't want to see, felt it was kind of offensive, and that was The Lone Ranger. And it says here that Disney followed that disappointing film up with this year's Lone Ranger, which cost $225 million, but only grossed $147 million in the global box office sales to date. Now, this film was not originally supposed to cost 200 and something million. Too many things was happening here. The budget kept going up and up. Even Disney pulled the plug on this not once but twice. But they let it release anyway in hopes that Johnny Depp's star power would actually rise to the occasion. Didn't work out that way. Both films were successful despite the launching of a new franchise follow-up, the Pirates of the Caribbean, which generated a combined $4.7 billion in revenue over the course of the 4 films between 2003 and 2011. After the failure of The Lone Ranger, Disney would finally realize that it needs to stop digging in the past and rebooting extremely dated characters. Instead, all it needs to do is rely on the growth of Marvel Cinematic Universal and its upcoming Star Wars film, and Universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars films to carry its film studios division. I'm a bit mixed on that, and I'll explain that, but in another video. It's going to be an audio topic, because I don't think that's a wise decision to rely just on 2 studios. They did this before in the 80s when they tried to do a lot of their films through made-for-TV movies and live-action films in the 80s, and it didn't really work out as well as they could. And even though they do have 2 successful franchises in their division, that can also hurt them because they can't just rely on that. And people have brought this to everyone's attention in previous video. Now I'm going to talk about that in the coming video. But believe me when I say I don't think that's the wise decision. It also talks about, and this is a good article. That's why I'm reading the whole thing and not skimming through, because I think you need to hear what this article is actually is trying to say here. This is a very good article, very important article. That's why I'm actually not editing this article out, even though I could just simply talk about it and then let it go. But this is something why you need to see this trend, and why Steven Spielberg is very, very concerned about the movie industry. Time Warner takes one step forward but another step back. Unlike Disney, Time Warner, the parent company of Warner Brothers, desperately need to create a hit that can connect the audience. Ever since the Harry Partians in 2011, the Dark Knight trilogy concluded in 2012. Time Warner has lacked a major franchise that can generate a reliable stem for the end of room revenue. In short, they didn't have a backup plan. For now, Warner Brothers is concentrating heavily on laying down the groundwork for DC's cinematic universe to revival the Man of Steel. Zack Snyder's goody reboot of the Superman managed to ignite a spark that of hope amongst fans hoping to see the Justice League film. And recent reports indicate that a new film featuring a long-awaited team-up with Batman and Superman, which was announced last week, will arrive soon. In the 5 weeks since The Man of Steel release, it grossed $635 million worldwide, easily surpassing its production budget of $225 million. It would have been a major disappointment if that would have failed, but it was highly unlikely. However, just like Disney, Time Warner shot himself in the foot by releasing Pacific Rim in the film, featuring Transformer-like robots battling ocean monsters that resemble Godzilla. In the week since it was released, the film grossed $178 million worldwide, well short of its production budget of $190 million. Now, this movie is still in theaters. Let's see what happens. And many people saying it's not going to make it, but I am going to wait and see what happens. The article continues. I know a lot of people saying, damn, how long this article is. This is a long article. This is a very long article, but I feel that you need to understand exactly where this article is heading from, and why a lot of decisions that Hollywood has made, and even the movie industry has made, have actually hurt them more than benefit them. And they are feeling it now. They really are feeling it now. High risk, low rewards. Um, the line of problems with the film industry to satisfy demand of audience expecting 3D, IMAX, D-Box experience for all their film movie studios have to popularize high budget action films over other genres. They have also shown that they have no problem investing $200 million on these films, which could end up flopping with big losers. In other words, the studios are facing high risk, low reward scenario that is getting worse, and the industry insiders like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are wise to warn that the current generation of films could be heading off the cliff. Films gets bigger and bigger with no guarantee of return. This has been a major problem as well. Do I really? And this is something very serious. You want to spend $200 million in a movie that may have no substance whatsoever. And look, before I go any further than this, I have no problem with popcorn films. There are some films that I just want to entertain me. You know, I don't care about the dialogue. Some dialogues are cheesy, and some films are meant to be cheesy. But do I really need to see an explosion in my chair to rock back and forth just to get the actual feel? I didn't care about it back in the 80s. I didn't care about it back in the 90s, and I don't care about actually feeling vibrations now. So the D-Box to me is just a waste of time. It really is. But again, these studios feel that that's what people want, and they're going to keep throwing it out there even though there is no really good reward to it. It really doesn't make the experience any different. In other words, the studios are facing high risk, low risk scenario. Okay, in the film industry, if the film industry crashes, Time Warner stands to lose more than Disney, 38.6%. Wow, the Time Warner top line was generated by its combined film and TV division, while 12.7% of Disney revenue came from its studios. Although I don't expect either company to hit a terrible hard by this year summer flop, investors should still keep an eye on the film industry to see if diminishing returns will change how movies are made in the future. They should keep an eye on it. More ideas for survey investors like you. The multi-food chef investor offers a selective his number one stock of the year. Find out why is this on this thing. I'm not gonna even bother reading that. Not gonna bother reading that. That's it. That's it. That's the whole just caboodle from this article. I will leave a link below because I think you guys should need to read it. I think those who are movie lovers or movie critics should read it and also comment on it and give your own 2 cents on this. But like I said, from hearing this, everything that article said with that last one, which didn't even need to be there, I don't know why they put that there. That's why I didn't bother going through it. You'll see when you scroll down the last paragraph. It's pretty much true. Poor investment, making risk that is not really necessary, trying to force a product, which is the D-Box, which I never did, and I'm not planning to do because, frankly, it's a waste of my damn time. And 3D, which is making the movie experience more expensive than what it needs to be. That and the fact is that the theaters are expensive, the popcorn are expensive, and there are more junk films out there that really nobody really cares for. You add that with the expense of how much it's going to cost to take your family of 4, family of 5, or even a family of 1 to see the movie theater. That adds up. And to be honest with you, why should I spend all that money when DVD, Blu-ray, put it in there, I'm good. Netflix, I'm good. I didn't spend that much money to begin with, and I'm happy. The movie experience isn't as fun as it used to be. Any time when I have to actually debate on whether seeing this movie and whether seeing this movie, when I gotta go price hunting for a theater because I don't have enough money to spend on one theater that's gonna basically just eat away at my wallet, and I haven't even any room for popcorn, that's a problem. And has become a problem more so in the last 5 years than ever before. It's one of the reasons why it prompted me to do the audio topic that I've done a few years ago about is the movie theater in its last days. And believe me when I say this, if it goes up to $25, it's definitely in its last days. It's based on a respirator, because there's no way that an average family who is barely making a living will actually fork over $25 to see a film. That's just not happening. But it's getting there. It's already $18 just to see a 3D film in Manhattan. So it's definitely getting there. But again, these are one of the major issues that I hope Hollywood, the movie industry, and the theater industry takes serious consideration, because these flops are becoming too noticeable now. Disney had back-to-back flops in action films. You have films that are being released that are more pretty much a clone of the last film I saw last year. And one of the major reasons why Battleship tanked, because everybody saw the trailer and everybody saw the movie and said, this is Transformers blend in with Independence Day, and has no substance whatsoever. Now, I don't know how Pacific Rim looked like. From what I've seen from reviews, especially Amatic Expression, the film looks decent. It has some good fun action films. It's a good popcorn film. But you know what? Even the good action films like that are meant just to entertain you and just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride, are getting hurt from past films that are lazy, not well acted, not well paced, and just has no. Even the action film is so poorly done that they actually put people to sleep. And those films affect other films as well, especially with 3D. 3D's really hurt the industry in terms of people wanting to go and see a film at a reasonable price. And it's hurting them now. It really is. Steven Spielberg, in my opinion, I respect his views more than I do George Lucas. So even though George Lucas, it didn't seem like George Lucas had much. It says that he too agree with that. But here's the thing with George, and I might as well say it. George is just as responsible for this type of stuff we're seeing in theater because of the Star Wars prequels. I don't hate the Star Wars prequels as a lot of other people does. I consider The Phantom Menace my guilty pleasure. I did not like the way they did the Clone Wars, and if it wasn't for the last 20 minutes of the film, this would have been marked as one of the worst films and the most hated film I've ever seen. That last 20 minutes actually saved it. But it was still a pretty disappointing film. And the third one was pretty good, but not as good as people have to say it's the best one since The Empire Strikes Back. Hell no. No. No one of those prequels are good than any of the old Star Wars films that came out. But here was the thing. With me was what was wrong about that film was plain day. He pretty much substituted good quality storytelling with all these effects, all these 3D effects. He wanted to throw everything in there, and he even done it with his masterpiece, the original Star Wars trilogy. And people started to say, "Oh, enough already." He took offense to that. He was very angry, but I think he missed the point that the film was good just the way it was. It wasn't too much out there. It didn't. The effects didn't take away from the actors doing a great performance, telling a great story, and seeing a well-action drama that was in a sci-fi film. The Phantom Menace had lacked that. Clone Wars had lacked that. Even the one that people highly praise, that the Revenge of the Sith, lacked that, because he put too much into one thing and didn't balance it out with the other. You guys may disagree with me on that, but that's the whole problem. And Lincoln, I'm kind of glad that Lincoln was not placed into the small screen. This film deserved to be seen in the big screen, especially during the holiday season. So I'm very happy that this film actually got in there. I'm very happy that Steven Spielberg put that movie into the big screen, and it actually done 10 times better than Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which I actually thought would be the opposite, but obviously that was not the case. So I really do hope that Hollywood take notice that all the stuff they're doing is just not working. It's just you guys are taking too much big risks, and now it's starting to hurt your bottom line. And as always, when something hurts their bottom line, sometimes they like to take a back seat. Disney, there's a whole different story on that together. I will get to them in the future, but for now, I'm gonna leave the article here. You guys can check it out yourself, and give me a comment on this because it's very important. Amazing. I spent more time on that one than the first article. I should have put this one first and second article, and the other article second. But nevertheless, I have to talk about this one. I was going to talk about it um, last, and I'm going to just go briefly about it because, frankly, uh, yeah, Amanda Bynes is being treated in a hospital. According to the Los Angeles Rutgers, the troubled actress Amanda Bynes has been taken to a hospital for involuntary psychiatric care after the former teen star was involved in a disturbance in the South, in a certain California. Attorney said on Tuesday. The spokesman for the Ventura County Sheriff Department declined to describe the incident that prompted deputies to take Bynes into custody and commit her into psychiatric evaluation. But local media reports that the 27-year-old actress has started a fire in the driveway of a home in a Los Angeles suburbs of Thousand Oaks. Bynes was born in Thousand Oaks and grew up there. The county fire department, the Ventura County Fire Department, confirmed that it responded to a Monday night to an incident involving a gas can that was set on fire in the driveway, and that Bynes was at the scene, but would not say if she was accused of starting the fire. The article also says here that the small fire, which scalded the driveway, was extinguished by local residents, and the fire department said that under California law, a person may be detained for mental health evaluation for up to 72 hours. So most likely, depending on what the doctors have said, she may be released no later. Let's see, this is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I say Thursday morning. The message left Bynes' attorney was not immediately returned. The actress, who premiered at the age of 13 when she had her own comedy show in Nickelodeon television network, but has made headlines over the past year for eerie behavior, legal problems, and odd posts on Twitter. Bynes, who is on probation in California for driving on a suspended license, is on trial in the state on the charges of driving under the influence and a New York charge of marijuana possession and throwing a bong out of the window. And that is the article here. And I don't know what to say. This downfall is these last few years has really angered and also saddened a lot of the fans, as well as people who were friends with her or still is friends with her. They don't know what's going on in her head right now. They don't know what's going on with her. I'm hoping that if she is in psychiatric care, the doctors would really seriously take a look at it, find out what's going on, and if there is something that really needs to give actual attention, that they do so with the best of care, because this cannot continue. Whether the situation where she started a fire or not, that is something that they hadn't reported on. There was other reports that said that she was creating disturbance, but like other reports, they didn't even say if she actually started the fire or not. But the point is, that was not her home, and she started that. Even though she grew up in that town, she started in somebody else's yard, and that's the thing they keep on suggesting. And now you got this situation, which hopefully you'll kind of hope that this will finally wake Amanda Bynes up and say, yeah, you've got some serious issues, and you need to address it. There was a lot of stuff that has been happening with this actress, which I didn't report because, frankly, I did not want to constantly make this into the Amanda Bynes time. I'm not doing it with Lindsay Lohan. I'm not doing it with Kim Kardashian. I'm sure not going to do it with Amanda Bynes. But this is something that I think that now is the time, especially for her family, to get involved and say, enough already. What's going on? What's happening with you? You was never like this. Why are you acting like this now? Because something's up. Okay, she may not say there's nothing wrong, but there's something wrong, and she is really bringing attention to herself in such a way that that now it's raising eyebrows and it's saying enough already. I will leave this link for you guys to look at. I will leave this link for you guys to actually talk about it and give me a comment. I will leave a link to all the articles that I've just mentioned here. And like I said, you guys may disagree. You guys may feel that it's not really a major issue. That's fine. But I'd like to hear your feelings on this matter. I'd really like to hear your opinion on this matter because it does matter, especially those in the entertainment world. So until then, this is J77 saying take care, be safe. I will talk to you soon.